going to put this on because I feel maybe it's a little more, or a little less formal. Plus, I can channel my inner Madonna right before the microphone. Does this work?
Yes.
Hello? Okay. So I made the mistake of buying new shoes today, so if I have to take them off midway, just ignore me. Just act normal. So I come tonight with what I think is bearing exceptionally good news, which is you don't have to have it all figured out. Okay, so as long as you are doing the requisite work, brainstorming, networking, putting yourself out there, your career will just happen. So the way I want to do tonight is I want to break it into 3 different pieces. So one, I want to give some practical, tangible advice, because I find that going to these events, it's often really good to have something that you can take home and work on. The second piece is homework. So yes, you thought you could get away without homework, but I'm actually going to try and provide you with some. And the last thing is probably a little bit more casual, and it's going to be self-reflective for me, and looking at things that I wish I had known 10 years ago, 5 years ago, even last year, and maybe even yesterday. So that's not to say that everything I'm going to say is going to resonate with you guys, and that's okay. I definitely don't have the answers, but what I can do is speak from my own experience, and I hope it's helpful. Okay? So in terms of the 5 pieces of practical advice that I would have to give, the first one is arguably the most important one, and unfortunately, I learned this lesson way too late. And that is to be your own best advocate. So being your own cheerleader. No one is going to believe in yourself as much as you can. No one is going to champion your cause as much as you can. So I want to hark back on a story to sort of illustrate what I mean. So this was about 10 years ago. I wasn't, someone's tweeting in the back, so I'm terrified of what they're saying. I did remember to brush my hair today. So this was about 10 years ago. I had my brand new suit, my brand new job, my brand new office, and a brand new boss. I was so excited, I was eager, I was hungry, right, like how we all are. I go in and I sit in my boss's office. She looked over sort of my portfolio and she looked up at me and I was sort of like, here we go. And she said to me, I'm going to say this to you, and I'm going to say this to you once. I think you should seriously reconsider your career path because you do not have what it takes to succeed. So I'm not exaggerating at all. This is what she said to me. So needless to say, that was met with absolute devastation, a lot of sleepless nights, and a lot of tears, unfortunately, over this situation. So what I did was I brought that back to my mentor and I said, this is what's happened, this is awful, the world is over, I'm going to quit, what should I do? And she said, this is your opportunity. This is the time that you have to believe in yourself and take this on as a challenge. I want you to go into work tomorrow early. I want you to sit at the table, I want you to put your hand up, I want you to challenge ideas, work harder, take on extra projects, stay late, and show this woman what you're worth. So I did that. And 2 years later, I outlasted her, she left the company, and I finally got the recognition which I thought I deserved. So again, be your own best advocate, because no one else is going to do it for you. You have to create your own opportunities. The second piece of advice has to do with finding a mentor. 2 things, why and how. And here, I kind of want to flip mentoring on its head a little bit, and I know we had just discussed before, because for me, and I don't know if you guys agree with me, the whole concept of mentoring, and a lot of times at these mentoring gatherings where you have your cocktails, it's so boring, and you're meeting people and you're like, I don't even care, you're not even interesting to me, I'm just doing this because I think I'm supposed to, or my company has some sort of participation credit or whatever. So you're talking to some woman and she's 7 years old and she's like, wow, this is what I did. And you're just like, okay, where's my wine? I'm out of here. So I want to flip it on its head. And what I mean by that is how to find a mentor. You find the way I describe it is by finding a mentor like you would your romantic partner, okay? It should be organic. Seek somebody out that you are genuinely interested in. I advise against people picking up the phone, calling and saying, do you want to be my mentor? Because it's just forced, it's awkward. I've done that before, I've done that way too many times, and it just doesn't really work. So the way that I recommend people do it is do your research. Find somebody who you're genuinely interested in and who you genuinely respect as a person. Then seek them out. And again, do your research so you know what they're about. You're not going in there cold. Take them out for coffee and please buy the coffee. This is a mistake people make that I make all the time, but treat them to coffee. And ask them questions about themselves and see if they're interested in you. Okay, it has to be the symbiotic relationship. It has to work for both people. And the reason why is that's going to create a long-term relationship. And then I think you avoid this kind of forced interaction or forced awkward interaction. The other piece of how is let's look beyond seeking this older, more experienced mentor. It doesn't actually have to look that way. They can be your same age. They can be a little bit older than you. They can even be younger. Again, it's somebody who you are interested in and someone who you think you can learn from. They also do not have to be in your company or even in your industry. Sometimes it's better to have somebody totally removed from what you're doing. Often they may be able to give you a little bit more of an objective opinion. Why? Why do I need a mentor? 2 reasons. One, networking. It does matter who you know. Getting your name out there is important, especially in a city like Calgary, which I'm learning because I'm relatively new here. Everyone knows each other, so get out there, make those connections. The second reason why I have found having a mentor be really important is because it forces you to vocalize your challenges, your fears, your goals, and then once you actually vocalize these things, you then ultimately feel this personal accountability, this personal responsibility to follow up. You're like, I guess I'm not allowed to swear here, but you're like, damn, you know, I just put it out there, so now I'm going to have to follow up that I was, you know, hoping to achieve this goal, or damn, I finally vocalized my fear, so now I actually have to go about solving it in a positive way. You don't feel resentful, but it's a really good personal motivator. And another reason why mentors are very helpful is because they're not your family, okay? They're not your boyfriend who loves and supports you with any decision you make and thinks that anything you do is fantastic. Objectives are going to be a little bit more objective, a little bit harder edged, and arguably a little bit more strategic. So I like to refer to my mentor as a strategic cheerleader. The third piece of advice that I have is build your network. Ladies, never lunch alone. And I'm so guilty of that today. Grabbed my lunch, sat at my desk, finished work. How many people went out for lunch today with a colleague? Okay, not bad, but I'd say that's about less than a quarter. Okay, every moment is an opportunity, and if it's not there, make it. Take somebody out for lunch, go out for coffee, in your department, in another functional group, in another company, just get out there. Again, build your network. The big reason why I'm suggesting to do that is because down the line, you never know what opportunity is going to come up, or you never know what favor you're going to need. You never know what ask you're going to need. And it's way better to build those relationships without asks. Do you know what I mean by that? Than the first time you call someone up and say, hey, Julie, I've never met you, but I'm wondering if you can help me with this. Instead, you're picking up the phone or even texting Julie and saying, hey, it was so great to meet you the last couple times. Wasn't that fun? Also hoping that you can help me out with this. And I found that's something, again, that I've learned to build the relationships and build the networks without the asks. The fourth piece of advice I have is specialize, but don't specialize too much. This is resonating with me hugely right now. I'm at, well, I sort of am always at this sort of crux of always thinking, okay, what's best to do here? So I'm saying, yes, build your career high, but also make sure you're building your career a little bit wide. Why? The economy changes. Your personal interests change, and oh my God, your life circumstances change. So my example, my most recent example is, okay, so I've got this international career, it's awesome, I love traveling, it's so great, I'm never home. Holy crap, I all of a sudden have a 15-month-old daughter and I have to go to Peru for 2 weeks. Things have shifted. So I'm at a position now where I'm like, oh, okay, so maybe it's important for me to be building my skill set other than what I know and what I'm comfortable with. That's not saying I'm going to start learning accounting because God love them, I have no idea how they do it. But it is to say that maybe I'm going to branch out a little bit and just make sure that I'm picking up some skill sets along the way in case I get laid off, in case I decide what I'm doing is no longer challenging, or in case there are life circumstances which you say, whoa, all of a sudden I'm not able to live in Toronto and work for a big company or have a family and don't necessarily want to travel. The last piece of advice is this, and listen closely. You are all very interesting and arguably amazing people. So how do I know that? Because you're all here. You're all motivated, you're all hungry, you're all driven. The task is to stay that way. So what do I mean by that? We spend so much time as young women in Calgary building our career. You know, we participate in these incredible events with these incredible organizations. We take these programs, we're building our career, but sometimes we forget to focus on our passions, on our community, and on our family. And for me, there is no question that the best leaders, the best bosses are those that are balanced. You will not raise in the ranks if you're only focused on your careers. That's not to say that it's great to go in on the weekends, that it's great to stay at work late, but so long as you are volunteering, like give back to your community, so long as you're taking your yoga classes or you're practicing your piano or whatever it is that drives you, skiing up at Lake Louise, and also giving back to your family, whether you have one now or in the future. People aren't interested in someone who just has career successes. You know, at the water cooler, don't you think, what are the conversations you have at the water cooler, other than, talking about your boss or whatever, the little things that's going on. I hope my boss is not in the audience right now. But it's about, the ski trip you took or the travel plans that you have or something interesting. Okay, so this is really, really key. It's also going to make you a better, happier person. That work-life balance doesn't just happen on its own. You have to really work for it. So those are the 5 pieces. So now I'm going to talk about homework, okay? I thought, all right, how can I make this interesting? So I'm going to talk about things that you can see, things that you can hear, and things that you can do. And now is when you're supposed to get out your pen and paper, okay, or your phone, whatever, as long as you're not tweeting. No, you're supposed to be tweeting. Okay, so first thing, seeing. When you get home, or tomorrow, or on the weekend, but ladies, holy cow, go and download or buy or borrow the book Lean In. Has anybody read it yet? Okay, 3 of you, 4 of you, 5 of you, awesome. Okay, I'm so happy to spread the word on this. It's by a woman named Sheryl Sandberg, who's the CEO of Facebook. And she's awesome, and the messages are resonating with me like crazy. It's so relevant to what we are all going through. Sorry, I shouldn't speak for you guys, but I'm sure a lot of you can identify with this. One of the key pieces that has stuck with me is this is ridiculous. So they've done a lot of research on success between women and men. And what the research has shown is that when women are successful, they decrease in likability and experience less support from their community. Compared to men, when they are successful, they increase in likability and in turn get more support from their community. So this is a really crappy reality that we deal with. It's taught us to sit back, not just at work, not just in our greater group of acquaintances, but also with our friends. On Facebook, we're embarrassed to publish our accomplishments. We don't want to speak out too much because we might appear arrogant. We might appear too overly confident. We don't put our hand up. We don't shamelessly self-promote. This is really disappointing. Okay, so this is a reality that I feel like, okay, we can all, if we all work together on this and are supportive to our friends and our female colleagues, maybe we can overcome this barrier. And I don't mean to sound pie in the sky, sort of dreamy idea, but to me this is a huge one. I feel I deal with it. I don't know if other people can, you know, relate, but it's sort of like, oh, you don't really want to tell people that, you know, you got a promotion, or, you know, that things are going well for you, because all of a sudden your girlfriends or your coworkers will be like, so you think you're all great. Anyways, all that to say, read this book. If you hate it, throw it away and send me hate mail, that's fine. But it's really, she's got a lot of really key points there. So the second piece is hearing, listening. When you get home tonight, go to YouTube and watch Amy Cuddy's TED Talk. So its last name is C-U-D-D-Y. She's this amazing social psychologist that works for Harvard. She's a professor at Harvard. And she's done a bunch of research on body language and how that relates to our success. So has anyone seen this TED Talk before? Okay, so 4 of you. Amber? Damn it. Okay, no, this is really good. So this woman's just ridiculously amazing. But so she talks about body language and the whole concept of faking it until you make it, or as she calls it, fake it until you become it. So they did these experiments with people before job interviews, and she focuses on what she calls power stances. So she had 2 groups of people. One group, for 2 minutes before their job interview, had to do power stances. So, I am big, I'm Wonder Woman, you know, I am in charge, whatever that looks like for you. The second cohort of people did the opposite. So they were, for 2 minutes, they had to sit very small and make themselves sort of little. And what they found was the people who did the power stances, they had a spike in their cortisol, felt more confident, then in turn acted more confident in their interviews, and then were successful, then got the job interviews. Exact opposite happened for those who were, you know, sitting like this. So it's a fascinating TED Talk. She's amazing, and it's really interesting. So she says, you know what, even if you're not confident, even if you're not terrified, before you go and do something, stand like Wonder Woman for 2 minutes, and it will change. It'll change the results. You'll be more successful. So the last thing is find a mentor. The last thing is the do. How many people here have a mentor? Good, good, not good enough. It should be 100% for the reasons that I've already talked about. Getting your name out there, talking to someone who's gonna stick on you, be a little bit more objective. Again, if you have any questions in terms of how to find a mentor, I'm sure Young Women of Influence would be happy to help out. I'm happy to answer any questions as well. But there are, you know, this is a perfect place to find one. Again, think outside the box, flip the mentoring concept on your head. Find someone who's really interesting. You want to go out with wine for, you know? Right, so that's your homework. Okay, so the last piece are things that I wish that I knew when I was younger. So, David Letterman. Anyone familiar with this guy? He does his top 10, and that's my favorite part of the show. So I thought maybe I could present the top 10 things I wish I could tell my younger self. Number 10, do it now. Holy cow, the power of procrastination and avoidance is one I know so well, but the problem is it's death by 1,000 excuses. Over time, not taking those opportunities, over time, not making those opportunities adds up, or I should say adds down, versus picking up the phone right then, scheduling right then, setting out your goal right then. Do it now. Number 9, be kind to everyone. Okay, stay true to your values, because money and power has a really sick way of twisting the way people treat you, the way you treat other people, and karma has a really clever way of rearing its ugly or beautiful head. Number 3, never give up the hunt for the perfect mascara. and I will take any advice anyone has on that for me. Number 4, dress the part. I know it sounds superficial and it seems ridiculous that of all the things I'm saying, I'm talking about dressing the part. And trust me, I am the candidate for the show What Not to Wear. I try to convince my friends to get me on that show, but they haven't done it yet. So again, you know my name, send my name into the show. But unfortunately, we do live in a superficial world, and sometimes we only have our first impression to rely on. So dress the part. You know, you've heard people say don't dress for the position that you have, dress for the position that you want to. Doesn't mean you have to go out and buy like a Hugo Boss suit, but be professional. Brush your hair, that's a big one for me, right? Always take the higher road. So whatever challenges you come across, however tired you are, however much you hate your colleague or your boss or the project you're working on, always act with grace, with class, and with dignity. You'll always end up coming out as the bigger person. Number 5, give back and keep balance. So I've talked about that before, but the dreaded work-life balance. You got to make it happen for yourself. And I do believe that there is such thing as that balance. It's just different for all of us. But it does include work, it does include family, it does include your passions, it does include your friends, and it does include your community. So volunteering, I'm a big proponent of volunteering. Number 4, that guy you're considering marrying, wait. Things change. Number 3, work.
Just gonna leave it there. We're just gonna leave it there. We have the story.
I need a glass of wine. I'll talk and support that one. Now I'm terrified that this is going to be online. That's okay. Number 3, here's a brainy idea. Work hard. What a weird concept. This is a really weird concept for our generation, right? We're entitled, maybe a little bit spoiled. We're used to getting things quick and easy, to shortcuts, to Facebook updates, you know, where you quickly are like, oh, okay, this is happening in the world, to summaries. But there is no substitute for hard work. The only way that you can build your reputation and your career sustainably is by getting your hands dirty and working hard. Number 2, be resilient. This is a big one for me. Look, it doesn't matter how smart you are, how many connections you have, how much money you have. The thing that will get you to the next level is being resilient. Time and time again throughout history, whatever aspect of history we're looking at, the thing that will get you to the top is resilience. Because you're gonna fail. It may not be obvious that you're failing, or it may be super painfully obvious that you're failing. But keep picking it up. Don't let people bring you down, honestly, because they will try, either overtly try, or it's a system that covertly isn't pushing you forward. So be resilient. Honestly, forget anything else that anyone ever tells you, or at least that I say tonight, but just remember to always be resilient. It's the only quality that matters to get ahead, in getting ahead. And the last one, allow yourself space to dream. So we're taught in our society, again, to build our technical and practical skills, and that's so important, but then all of a sudden we're all the way up here and we focused on, you know, one side of the brain, and then all of a sudden we've totally forgot about being creative. And so it doesn't really work so well to balance. And you know how some people say it's never too late? It really isn't. There are always opportunities. You're never too old, or you're never too specialized to switch. So make sure you allow yourself that space to be creative, to dream, and to challenge yourself. It's sometimes scary when you do allow yourself that space, because you're like, oh my God, I've got these ideas, and I think these are things that I want to accomplish. So take a look at it as though you're asking yourself, if I wasn't scared, what would I do? You know, if I wasn't afraid to fail, what would I do? If I wasn't afraid to face criticism or challenge, what would I do? So to round all the way back again, the good news is we totally do not have to have it figured out. But as long as we're championing ourselves and putting our hands up, getting a seat at the table, challenging ideas and questions, as long as we are, as long as we've found a mentor, so someone to bounce ideas off, as long as we're building our network, as long as we're specializing, both in terms of height and width. I know people say depth and width, but I kind of like the idea of height and width. And as long as we're staying these interested, amazing, balanced people, the answers will come, decisions will make themselves. So that's it. Thank you.